morning. Happy Monday morning. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Today, we are jumping into answering questions that you've been asking me because you've been joining me on these videos. So, if you saw the title of this morning's video, then you saw at least one of the questions that came from those of you watching these videos. One question is, my boss just got fired. What happened? Now, what do I do? Because we want to make sure we're giving you guidance. The other question came from a current coaching client of mine who, when you get a panic text, you know something's wrong, sent me a text last week, needed to talk to me. We hopped on the phone, and that question was, my boss just quit. Now what? So this morning we're tackling both situations because the advice is very similar. My boss just quit. Now, what does that mean? My boss just got fired. What does that mean? And in the case of the firing, the boss actually got walked out of the building by security. And that's tough. Now, I love that you guys are asking questions. So let me just take a moment before I answer those questions to say thank you. A lot of new folks are joining us. I know some of you have hopped on this link recently because you want exclusive career advice to your inbox. I know others of you are scheduling calls. I've got 2 calls today with potential folks who want help in your career journey. So for those of you who are new, I'm Cicely. Let me just introduce myself real quick and then I'll answer those 2 questions. I am on a mission to transform your career because when I transform your career, I change your life. Now, those aren't my words. Those are the words that my clients told me when I worked with them. Because the career tips and strategies that I offer will help you succeed in any role and get to the level of success you desire. So if you're here with me this morning, these tips are for you. There are plenty of other tips over on my YouTube channel. If you want to jump over there and subscribe, you'll see all of them over there. But since one question came from someone who I coach and one question came from someone who watches these videos, then I wanted to bring both of these questions forward this morning for conversation. So grab your pen and paper. As you know, I always say, pull up your chair and let's jump into these questions. Number one, okay, so regardless of where you are on the my boss got fired or my boss quit, here's a common denominator. Your boss is no longer there. So, one thing I want to ask you to think about, first thing actually, is be mindful of your emotions. Your inclination is going to be, my boss is not here. I need to go look for another job. Hang on a second. You may not need to go look for another job. You may be fine where you are, and hang on, I'm going to tell you why. But get a handle on your emotions. Because initially you want to kind of do the kind of fight or flight, right? Where do I go? What does this mean for me? I got to get out of here. The person who hired me is no longer here. Don't jump to any conclusions. Hey, good morning. I see some folks are joining. I'll get to your comments in just a moment. I see someone said they pulled up their chair. Awesome. I'll get to that comment in just a moment. So tip number one, if your boss has quit, if your boss has been fired, and your question is now what in either situation, get a handle on your emotions. Your first instinct is going to be to quit and go find a new job. Or what does this mean for you? Hang on. Don't make any rash decisions right now. And I'm getting ready to tell you why. Number two tip I want you to think about is stabilizing your team. If there are people reporting up to you, then this experience is probably as jarring to them as it is to you, and maybe more so. Because now their boss's boss is gone and they want to know, what does that mean for them? Again, it all goes back to this change dynamic. None of us like change, so when something abrupt, a very abrupt disruption happens, we're either going to hunker down or we're going to get the heck out of there, because that's kind of where our initial inclinations go. But after you get a hold of your emotions, help your team stabilize their emotions as well. That is so critical. And even if it's not people reporting to you, if it's your collective team around you in terms of your peers and your colleagues, step up in this moment and show that you're the leader who is going to stabilize this team, including your colleagues, and kind of bring some order to the chaos that you're currently experiencing. Now, you may say, why would I step up? Everybody, why wouldn't somebody else do it? Because you're going to take advantage of this moment. In just a second, I'm going to tell you how. But I need you to get over the fear, the flight, I got to get out of here. I need you to stabilize your emotions first and then help others do the same. Because when you're level headed, you're going to make very different decisions than when you're in the moment, what happened, and there's chaos all around, and you're just trying to figure out what's going on. So once you get a handle on your emotions, help stabilize your team and your colleagues as well. That's a true leader. You don't need a title to be a leader. You step in and fill that void, and you are showing true leadership, not only to those around you, but perhaps to others who are watching as well, which leads me to tip number 3. In this situation, this is where we're going to spend the bulk of our conversation this morning. After you've stabilized your emotions and you help stabilize your team and your colleagues, number 3, I want you to ask yourself a question. And this is the same. This is the same 3 tips I gave the coaching client, my coaching client who reached out to me. The same 3 tips that I offered to the person who saw me on one of these videos and reached out as well. And that third piece of the equation is all about you. And here's the tip: what is preventing you from raising your hand and volunteering to step into that role your boss had? If your initial inclination is, I got to get out of here, time out. Take a step back, calm down, and ask yourself, can I fill that void? Should I step up to fill that void that's now been left by my boss? You may think that sounds very opportunistic. Perhaps it does. But there's a moment for you right now to make a decision about whether you want to step up, even on an interim basis, and say to whomever's making the decision, CEO or otherwise, I want to help stabilize. This is the language you use. I gave these language cues to the folks who reached out. I'm giving them to you. That's why I say get a pen and paper. The language cues you use are, I want to help stabilize my team and my colleagues. I'm happy to step into that role on an interim basis. If it's too much of a leap for you to say, I want to be in that role permanently, then just go for the interim basis piece. Just put yourself out there to be considered to fill that void and that role while perhaps others, CEO or others on the leadership team, are deciding what to do next. Now, pro tip, if there's already rumors of, no, we're just going to consolidate teams, we're just going to reorg, here's your pro tip. In the absence of alternative solutions, there's always a reorganization, because it's easier to lump teams together than it is to actually have an alternative solution. You are providing the alternative solution because you are the alternative. If you don't step up and fill that void in that moment and say, I'm happy to serve in this role on an interim basis while you figure out what this department and function looks like going forward, if you're not willing to raise your hand, then yes, there's probably going to be a reorg. You're going to be, thrown in with another department, because that is the path of least resistance for leaders of your company. And path of least resistance is easy. That's why I'm asking you this morning, do not take the path of least resistance. I truly want you to think about raising your hand and volunteering. I say volunteering, stepping in to that role on an interim basis and initiating that conversation with the CEO or whoever's making the decision that you are willing to step into that role to continue the team initiative, stabilize the team. I mean, there are a couple of additional language cues I can give you, but the idea here is, don't let your emotions get the best of you that you're ready to quit. Is this a moment of opportunity for you? Now, you guys know I'm very big about, creating your own opportunity, right? That's kind of the idea of pull up your chair. In this moment, there is an opportunity for you to rise to the occasion and to fill that void that has been left because your boss has been fired or your boss has quit. If you decide the answer to that question is no, I don't want to be in that role on an interim basis, fine. Fine. then if you are passed over for future opportunities, you're going to look back and say, I should have raised my hand. It doesn't matter because it doesn't matter right now in this moment. I need you to focus on it's the fact that you're stepping up that's going to be recognized. Even if they say, you know what, no, we're not going to do an interim role right now, but really appreciate you, bringing this to our attention. You've now set the stage that you're willing to serve in a leadership role. You've now planted that seed in their head that you want to be in a leadership role. So these 3 tips, I just, reach out if you want to talk about your particular situation. Again, I am all about creating opportunity for you. And I believe these 2 situations of your boss being fired or your boss quitting, because listen, even bosses are quitting right now, presents a unique opportunity for you. If it were me, I'd step into that void in a heartbeat. I want you to think about doing the same thing because that's how you create opportunity. That's how you advance in your careers. You step up in uncomfortable moments. So, number 1, you got to get a handle on your own emotions. Calm down. Yes, there's chaos. Take a moment just to gather yourself. Number 2, stabilize your team and your colleagues. So, those around you, be that galvanizing, unifying force. And then number 3, find that opportunity for yourself. Step up in this moment to step into that leadership role, be that leader, even if it's on an interim basis. Now, for the 2 people who reached out to me in their particular situations, I gave them the actual here's what you say, here's how you say it. Again, I'm very big on the right language in this moment matters. So you got to really step through a couple of key pieces. So if you guys want to have that same conversation, if you want those language cues, there's the link right there. Reach out to me. So I really challenge you this morning. I know I see comments coming. I'm going to get those in just a second. My point this morning is you have an opportunity. If you choose not to take it, that is your choice, but you have a choice. You have an opportunity in front of you. I'm going to urge you and really, 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 really strongly encourage you to consider stepping up and stepping in to fill that void that your boss has left and creating an opportunity for you that maybe 7 days ago didn't exist, but it exists now. That's a sign of a true leader. That is the sign of how you take advantage of true opportunity. So if you're in that situation, consider those 3 tips. Really, really, please consider those 3 tips. I know people who have done this before and it worked out. I say I know, I've coached them last year on people who did the exact same thing and it worked beautifully. They're now in the leadership role because they raised their hand and presented an alternative. What did I just do? I hit a button and they presented an alternative. Okay. So I'm going to jump into the chat because I see a ton of comments coming in. My coffee is not kicked in, so I'm hitting all kinds of buttons this morning. Looking forward to hearing your advice. Good morning, Eileen. Eileen, you are back from vacay. Good to see you this morning. We missed you. You're on LinkedIn and YouTube. I see we've got folks on LinkedIn, YouTube. Some people are joining from Facebook. Sometimes I go live to Facebook, sometimes I don't. I thought this was important enough this morning to go live on Facebook as well. Chris, you have pulled up your chair. Chris, your live stream last night was fantastic. I enjoy your live streams. And you say, be mindful of your emotions when faced with a situation like a boss quitting or getting fired. And I think the emotional piece, Chris, I started there, quite frankly. I started with the stabilize your emotions because we tend to be irrational in moments of change. We tend to be incredibly irrational. And you got to deal with that irrationality. Is that a word? Irrationality. Anyway, you got to kind of deal with the emotions. I'm not sure that's a word. I may have just made that one up. But you got to deal with that in the moment. And then, yes, you need to stabilize your team. And then you've got to step up. So, Chris, thanks for capturing those for folks in the chat. I know we have a lot of people who watch these videos who don't comment, but do see the comments coming in. So, Chris, I thank you for putting those in the chat. Chris Rivera is also here this morning. Hey, Chris, thanks for joining me. That is really, let me resize that so that everybody can see that on screen because that is really, okay, there we go. Why do so many people become frantic when an unexpected change in management is made? Is it because they lack confidence in what they bring to the company? Chris, I think it's a general aversion to change, period. I mean, we don't like change. I may have done a video on change. If not, I need to do one. People don't like change. None of us like change. That abrupt disruption is very jarring to people. Some people are very adaptable. That's the A in chair, by the way. They're very adaptable and they can really go with the flow in those moments. Some become very paralyzed by change and they don't know what to do. So, Chris, the answer to your question is I don't know that it's because they lack confidence in what they bring to the company. It's the fact that people tend to accept status quo. And you guys know I did a video a couple of weeks ago, and I'll actually link to it above and I'll put the description below, turning chaos into opportunity. This is a prime chaos into opportunity moment. And Chris, you do that by challenging the status quo. The status quo is we're just going to reorg. The opportunity is you don't need to reorg. I'm your alternative solution while you figure out a long-term plan. That's me. I'm willing to step into that void. So I don't know that's a lack of confidence in what they bring to the company so much as we just take things at face value. I have made my way in my career by challenging the status quo. Don't take anything at face value. Maybe face value and what's going on is not the best idea for the company nor for your team. So I believe in moments of chaos, you step up and create opportunity. And Chris, you do that by challenging the status quo. And like I said, I'll link to that video above as well. Yeah, Eileen is also echoing the emotions piece, and I think that's important. Chris says being opportunistic is painted in a negative light by people who are sour to missing out on opportunities. When the sword presents itself, seize the sword, my friend, seize the sword. Chris, all right, I'm going to stop on this for a moment because this is worth a conversation. Chris is spot on, and if you're watching this, screenshot this comment. People think, and I'm going to get kind of technical here, not technical, but I'm going to get a little in the weeds here for a moment. Chris is right. People think being opportunistic is a negative. I would jump through this screen this morning and take you by your proverbial kind of shirt collar and say, what are you thinking? There is nothing negative about being opportunistic. When you're opportunistic, you're creating opportunity for yourself. So this is not about competing with other people. This is not about what will others think. Creating opportunity, guys, is how you reach a level of success you desire. Otherwise, you're sitting there every day, stuck, frustrated, going through the motions, wondering why everybody else is making it happen in your career and their career and you're not. So here's the tough medicine this morning, and the coffee is kicking in. If you think being opportunistic is negative, you're going to stay stuck in your career. Point blank, end of story. Now, here's the part where I'm going to get in the weeds a little bit. If you are a guy watching this, and I'm coaching plenty of males and females, I have about 50-50 in my program. A guy wouldn't think twice about this. When I give this kind of advice to guys, they're like 100%. Usually they may even be ahead of me in terms of like, that's an opportunity. One of the people who came to me last week is a female, and she said to me, I know what you're going to say to me, Cicely. You're going to tell me to seize this moment. You're going to tell me to step into this. That's why I'm calling you, because I'm thinking about it and I have you in my head and I know what you're going to say. Because we tend to, as females, we tend to kind of, have an aversion to, no, we don't want to speak up because then we look like we're aggressive and we look like we're, other words come to mind. But I won't say those this morning because this is a PG live stream here. But you're called aggressive, you're called other words because people see females as that's not your role. If you don't get out of those stereotypes, you're going to be stuck in your career. You're going to be stuck in the same role for the rest of your career. That's just I'm going to stop there because as I usually get worked up on these videos and that is a sore spot for me. Somebody actually gave me a book to read that said, "Hey, do you agree with this?" And it was all about the male female dynamic of how we're females, don't be aggressive. Sit back, watch, stay in your spot. Hey guys, you can go knock it out of the park because that's what we expect you to do. Guys, break down those stereotypes. That's what you've got to do. Viewing opportunity, step up and grab the brass ring is exactly right. Chris says whether management accepts your offer to step in and help out, the fact that you raise your hand, Chris, that's exactly right. And look, I did a video probably last year. I'll go find it and relink to it. Maybe I'll do it again. That when you hear a no, treat it as a not now. It's not a personal rejection. If they say, "Hey, you know what? Thanks for hey, thanks for raising your hand, but we're not going to go that route. We're actually going to go ahead and do the reorg, or we already have plans." No skin off your back. You now planted the seed that you've stepped up. That's the goal here. It's not a personal rejection. They just may say, "No, we're going to go a different direction." But now they know you're interested in a leadership role and you're willing to step up in tough times and do the hard work. That is what's going to propel you in your career if you stay at that company. Judy, good morning. A great walkthrough of what your thoughts, how to create opportunity for yourself. Absolutely. Hey, Landon, good morning. Landon's chiming in this morning. Thanks, Landon, for being here. Planting the seed for potential opportunities is key. Your future self will thank you. And we have somebody joining us from Columbia this morning. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. I am so grateful. Listen, you guys know I give these tips, but it's really the comments where I get a little worked up because I love the chat and the dialogue. And when I worked with teams in my career, I love the give and take. I love the challenging each other. Let's push each other to think outside the box, to challenge the status quo. And that's what I love about these videos. And I love that we have new folks joining us this morning, and we have some of you who are here every Monday and Thursday with us. So thank you for that, because guys, you learn a lot in these comments and the give and take of this dialogue. So this morning, I'm already excited. So I may have to go do another video on this. Maybe I'll go record a short because now I'm all worked up. This morning, I want you to think about those 3 tips. Okay, you've got Landon in the chat, Judy's chiming in, Chris Rivera, Eileen, Chris Prouty. I see a couple of folks who are chiming in who don't, I can see LinkedIn user or YouTube user, but don't have their name, so thank you. Thank you for our friend who's joining us from Columbia. It says LinkedIn user, so I'm not sure why the name didn't pop up, but I'm grateful that you're here and grateful that you all are helping provide this advice and foundation for success to all of those who watch these videos. And join us live every Monday and Thursday. So guys, I'm going to leave you with these 3 tips. There we are. Reach out. Sorry, I got links. I've got different things here. Reach out if you want to talk through the situation. If your boss has quit or if your boss has gotten fired and there's that void and you want to know what to do, reach out. Let's have a conversation. Listen, it's a brainstorming. It's free. I'm happy to jump on the phone for half an hour and figure it out with you. Okay, that's, like I said, I love the give and take of conversation. So that link is right there. Just pop it into your browser, grab a few minutes on my calendar, and let's figure this out together. That's what these videos, that's what I'm here to do, is walk alongside you on your professional journey. I thank all of you for being here this morning. Okay, on Thursday, are you ready for this? On Thursday, we are going to tackle quiet quitting, which is a term I had no idea what it was 48 hours ago, and a Gen Zer brought it to my attention. And there's actually a phenomenon happening in the workplace called quiet quitting. So I'm going to tackle that on Thursday, so join me then. And I look forward to seeing you on that video, but also, folks, I'll link to these videos we've talked about below and above, and I'll see you on Thursday.